A very good day to our grade 12 learners. Welcome to today's mathematical literacy lesson. My name is Mambani Kekana, and remember that the lesson is brought to you by the Gauteng Department of Education in collaboration with Sibon. Okay, now boys and girls, it's crunch time. It's crunch time. I think you have been working throughout the year and now you can't wait for the examination. I'm sure that most of you cannot wait to write the final examination, but of course, you still have to prepare yourself for the final examination. So, in today's lesson, we're going to do a revision on one of the easiest topics in paper one, okay, that is data handling. Data handling, remember boys and girls, it's actually one of those topics that you can score a lot of marks. You can actually score all the marks if possible, the way this topic is so easy. But also remember that data handling in paper one consists of about 50 marks. So that will be between 50 marks and 55 marks. You will see that it counts about 35%. If you do your maths lit and you calculate 35% of 150 marks, that will give you about 53 marks. Okay, so just expect any marks between 50 and 55 marks, and then I'm sure that if you prepare yourself very well, you can actually get all the marks, all the 50 marks under data handling. Right, of course, in this topic, data handling, these are some of the things that you must remember to know. Okay, you must know how to develop questions. Okay, you must know how to develop questions, how to collect data, how to organize data, how to summarize data, and how to represent and analyze data. So basically, data handling, it's all about, or the questions will be based on developing questions, collecting data, organizing data, summarizing data, representing and analyzing data. Remember, boys and girls, this is a revision. This is not something new. Obviously, there must be something that comes into your mind whenever you see this concept. And then, of course, under data handling, remember we said there's going to be questions about developing a question or a set of questions. Obviously, when you do a research, you must have a question. What is your research going to be about? Then develop a question or set of questions that requires collection of data. So obviously, if you want to collect data, you must have a question. Um, why do you need to collect data? Okay. And then you must also remember that with regard to data collection, we've got different methods that we can use. The examiner might ask you to give one method, so you need to know all of them. The instrument or the method that we use to collect data, remember, it's questionnaire, it's interview, it's observation, and database. So in other words, if you want to collect information, where or how are you going to collect the information? When we say database, it means this is probably an information that is already available on the system or on an internet. Okay, or you can use observation if, for instance, if they want to know about how many cars are passing at a certain point, and then you obviously that will be done through observation. And then of course interview and questionnaire. So if the examiner asks you what method can we use to collect data, or what method is suitable to collect data, you must know that it's going to be one of these methods. And then of course categorical data. There's going to be somewhere about categorical data. You must know that when they talk about categorical data, what do they mean, or how does a categorical data looks like? Now, when we say categorical data, we refer to the data that expresses information in the form of grouping. Okay, so like for instance, we can have different ethnic groups and so on. So that information will say it's categorical. And then of course we've got numerical data. This is the data that expresses information in the form of numbers. Now, boys and girls, you mustn't be lazy. If the examiner asks you to give the definition, you mustn't be lazy to write full definition. Okay, because one word, two words, three words, or four words might not be enough. So just try to give as many words as possible. I know that you all know the answers. If they can ask you what a categorical data is or what a numerical data is, obviously there will be something that will come into your mind. You'll have a picture of that, okay? But explaining might be a problem. Remember, you are welcome to use your own words the way you understand it. It's not a must to write it exactly the same way you see it on the screen. And then, of course, we've got numerical data. When we get to numerical data, we've got two types of numerical data. That is a discrete data and a continuous data. Okay, a discrete data and a continuous data. Now, remember that a discrete data is the type of information that we collect by counting. Okay, I know most of you will say it's a data that is in the form of whole numbers, but that is not actually correct. It is a data that is collected by counting. Now, obviously, when you count, you'll never get a decimal number, but you can say it's a data that is in the form of whole numbers. That will be incorrect. And then, of course, continuous data. Now, when we get to continuous data, it's a type of information that is collected through measuring. So in order to collect this information, you need to measure. And then that is why with the other one, I said, if you talk about the whole number, you won't always be correct, because even if you do measurement, you can still get a whole number. Okay, so this one, we cannot say continuous data is the type of data that is in decimal form. That will also not be correct. It is the type of data or the type of information that is collected through measuring. We have to measure in order to get that information. And then, of course, when you did the frequency tables, you spoke about the tallies. Remember the tallies, those vertical lines and the horizontal lines. This one is a form of numeral used for counting. It is a form of numeral that we use for counting. And of course, frequency table is a table that lists items and shows the number of times the items occur. Remember, when you complete that frequency table, you're going to use the tallies, and then if you are counting, you're going to check how many times does this item appear, and then you count by using the tallies. Okay, and then of course ascending order. Again, boys and girls, we need to be so sure about this one. Ascending order, I usually say it's ascending R for up. So it means you're moving from the lower number to the highest number, moving from the lowest number to the highest number. So it's up, you're going up. That means from the low level to the higher level. And for descending, usually I say it's down. So it means you're moving from up going down. You're going down. So it means the data will be decreasing. So this one is the data arranged from biggest to smallest, while the ascending order means is the data that is arranged from smallest to biggest. Now, boys and girls, you can see these things, you know them. You just have to be sure when you get into the examination. And then mean, you all know how to calculate mean. Okay, but the examiner might also ask you to give the definition of a mean. So in this case, for a mean, we say sum of numbers. Remember, when we say sum, it means we are adding. Sum of numbers divided by how many there are. Sum of numbers, we add them together and we divide them by the number they are or how many they are. And then, of course, mode. So please, we know, boys and girls, when we come to mode, median, most of you are confusing this. So please make sure which one is which. So with regard to mode is the number, but it's not always only about the number. It can be a number or an item that occurs the most. A number or an item that occurs the most. Then it is possible that in a list of values or in a list of numbers or in a list of data, there's one data or one item that appears more than once, okay, or they appear the same number of times. In this case, it says it can be more than one. If it's there, you write no mode, okay. Let me explain this one. It means it is possible that you can have two of them that appear more than the others and they appear the same number of times, so you're going to write both of them. If it's three of them that appear the same number of times more than the others, you write all of them. But if there's only one that appears more than all those other items, then you only write one. And then if there isn't any data that appears more than other data values, then in that case we say no mode. You don't write 0, you must write no mode. Okay, so you must remember that. And then of course we've got median. Okay, but remember median, it's also in some cases they say is the 50th percentile. Median or 50th percentile, the middle number of arranged data is actually the middle most number. So it must be the middle most number. It's not just the middle number, it must be the middlemost number of arranged data. And remember that if you've got an odd number of values, then you are always going to have one value in the middle after you have arranged them. And then if you've got an even, it means you are always going to have two values in the middle. So what do you do if you've got two values in the middle? You add them together and then divide by 2. And then of course, in data handling, we've got minimum. You must know that a minimum means the lowest, the smallest, the shortest, depending on the type of data that is given. So the minimum is the lowest or the smallest number in a list of numbers, or the maximum is the highest or the biggest number in a list of numbers. Okay, so remember, some of the definitions might be slightly different from what your teacher taught you, but at the end of the day, you will see that they are actually meaning the same thing. We're not saying go and change that, as long as the meaning are similar. And then we've got, of course, lower quartile. In some cases, lower quartile, they say is 25th percentile. So it's lower quartile or 25th percentile. It means 25% of arranged data lies below this value. 25% of the arranged data lies below this value, or 75% of the arranged data lies above this value. If they say this is on the 25th percentile, it means 25% lies below and 75% lies above. And then of course we've got upper quartile, which is also 75th percentile. Now upper quartile, which is also 75th percentile, it's 25% of arranged data lies above. Now it's above, and then 75% lies below. You must just remember them. And then range, if they ask you to define range, you are not going to write the formula. The range must be the difference between the highest value and the lowest value. The difference between the biggest value and the smallest value. And then what do we mean by quartile? A quartile is a set of data that divides data into 4 equal parts. Quartile divides data, a set of data, into 4 equal parts. Okay, and then IQR, boys and girls, you have to be sure about this one. Some of you are confusing IQR with a range. Okay, IQR, which is an interquartile range, is the difference between upper quartile and lower quartile. The difference between upper quartile and lower quartile. Now remember, in terms of calculations, when we say difference, it simply means you take the big value, you subtract the small value, or you take the biggest value, you subtract the smallest value. And then of course, percentile, it's a position that determines percentage below or above. It's a position that determines percentage below or above. Like we said, if it's a 50th percentile, it means 50% below or 50% above. If it's 25th percentile, it means 25 below or 75% above. And then in most cases, this question where they say describe the trend. Describe the trend. Now, when we say describe the trend, you have to indicate the following. You have to indicate whether this is increasing or whether this is decreasing. Okay, in some cases you'll find that generally the information that is given is increasing. The information that is according to the graph that is given, the information is increasing. It means the values are moving from the lowest value to the highest value. So we say in terms of describing a trend, we will say that is increasing. But in some cases, you'll find that the data value or the graph that is indicated, the data value are increasing. By so doing, you'll be describing the trend. But in some cases, you'll say from this point to this point, it's increasing. But from this point to the other point, it's stable or it's flat, it's not increasing. And then from this point to the other point, it's decreasing. Either way, but you will see from the picture of the graph that from this point to this point, it's increasing, and from this point to that point, it's decreasing. Or in general, this is just increasing. There's no decreasing. Or in general, this is decreasing. So when they say describe the trend, I know that some of you get confused. When they say describe the trend, you get confused by seeing the term. The trend simply means indicate whether this is generally increasing, or this is generally decreasing, or this is stable. This is not increasing or decreasing. And then, of course, boys and girls, you must be able to represent and interpret data. The drawing of graphs, very, very important. The only graphs that you're not supposed to or you're not expected to draw are pie chart and box and whisker. Okay, all those other graphs, they might give you graphs, they ask you questions based on the graphs. Okay, they might give you graphs and they ask you questions based on those graphs, or they might give you information, data values, and then they ask you to draw the graphs. Okay, so it's two ways. So they can either ask you to draw a graph, or maybe they give you a graph and then they ask you questions based on this. So you must just be ready. Now, interpreting, that is where they give you obviously the graph or they give you the table and then they ask you questions based on that information. And the type of graphs that you must remember, we've got pie chart, we've got bar graph, and most of you are confusing bar graph and histogram. Just be sure, just know which one is which. And we also have scatter plot, and we've got box and whisker. Okay, and then obviously with regard to bar graphs, we've got different types of bar graphs. Okay, we've got compound bar graph, we've got triple bar graph, we've got horizontal bar graph, we've got vertical bar graph, and so on and so on. So you must also know those types of bar graphs. Then, of course, boys and girls, you wrote the prelim examination from Gauteng. Each and every province administered its own question paper. Okay, but with the purpose of preparing all of you for the same paper come end of the year. I'm not even talking about end of the year. We are already at the end of the year, actually. In few days, you'll be writing. Okay, so you wrote different papers. I'm sure your educators might have already shared question papers with you from other provinces. Please make sure that you use those question papers to practice. Okay, it's very, very important. So you will see that from this presentation, we took questions from different or from question papers of different provinces, and then we're gonna go through them. Now imagine, like for instance, in this case, it's Northwest. Now you just imagine if you were writing Northwest question paper, you'll be able to answer the question because obviously you answered Gauteng. Some of you aced the question paper, some of you struggled, some of you identified your weaknesses, your mistakes, and so on, but we all learn from our mistakes. And then obviously if you did well, you know that you are actually ready for the examination. Right, now let's see. This is question 1.1. It's a survey was made on a number of pilgrims that completed the Camino de Santiago in the years 2019 to 2022. The survey is displayed in the table alongside. Use the table to answer the questions that follow. Okay. 1.1 is write the total number of all the pilgrims from 2019 to 2022 in weights. Okay, from 2019 to 2022, we have to write down the total in weights. Now there it's the total. Okay, total from 2019 to 2022, the total is actually indicated there. Now, boys and girls, this is one of those easiest questions. Writing numbers in weights. Very, very important. This is this is one question where you cannot afford to lose the marks. If you look at this number, it's not 100,000, okay, it's not 1 billion, so you have to be sure. If you look at this number, it's 1018, okay, 494. Now imagine you have won a lottery, then they say this is the money that you are going to get. How much is this? Okay, how much is this? But unfortunately in this case it's not money, but by just reading this you'll know. So this one is 1 million. Now remember, everything must be in weights. So this is 1 million. Okay, 1,018,000 18,400 and 94. Okay, 1,018,494. Everything in weight. We don't want to see a number there. Okay, we don't want to see a digit. Everything in weight. So then you'll get your 2 marks. Can you see how easy it is? Now it's very important that you must know how to write the numbers in weights. Luckily in MathsLit, we don't worry a lot about spelling. What is important is, as long as we have an idea, we can see that, we can see what you mean. But it's very, very important to be able to write numbers, small numbers, big numbers in weights. Okay, and then this one is still on the same question. Explain the term survey. Explain the term survey. If you remember at the beginning when we started, I did an introduction about a survey. So survey, I'm sure there's something that comes into your mind. So it's a method that we use, a method that is used to collect data. Okay, very, very important. A couple of words, boys and girls, that will be enough. I mean, in this case, if you just say data collection, that might not make sense. So please try to write as many words as possible. Like I'm always saying, you always have an answer. Whenever you see a term, there's something that comes into your mind. Just try to expand it, write it with many words as possible. Maybe about 5 words or 6 words, that will be enough. Okay, then this is the next question. Write down the number of pilgrims that completed the Camino de Santiago in September 2019. Write down the number of pilgrims that completed in September 2019. Okay, so this one is write down the number of pilgrims. So they just want the number in this case. So if we go to September 2019, there's the number. Okay, so the number there is 45,649. They don't say write it with, they just write down the number. Easy. Some questions are very, very, very easy. If I were you, I would make sure that I collect all the marks from those questions that we always tend to think that they are very, very easy. So the answer there is 45,649. Okay, and then 1.4, it's calculate the value of A. Now we need to check in our table, there is the value of A. Calculate the value of a pilgrim who walked into the Camino in August 2020. So if we look at this, A, it's the number of pilgrims in 2020. We don't know what is that number. So, but if you look at this, there are two ways of doing it. There's more than one way of doing the answer. Some of you might use this total. Okay, you take this total and you subtract 1, 2, 3 totals. Or some of you might use this total for 2020 and you subtract all these values. Okay, you take 53,905 and you subtract all these values. Or in this case, you take 212,043, you subtract 1, 2, 3 values, because at the end of the day, 1, 2, 3, 4 values must give you this value. At the end of the day, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. If you add all of them, they must give you this. Okay, so in this case, I'll choose the easiest way, but if you want to do it the other way, that will also be correct. So in this case, I'll just say the value of A is 212,043, and then I minus 85,842, and then I minus 43,575, and then I minus 62,814. Okay, so this is how we do it. It's very important to show the method. Very, very important, boys and girls, that you must always show the method. So if I take my calculator, of which it's what you must also do, remember, it's very important that whenever we do this type of calculation, you are always using your calculator, making sure that your calculator is giving you the correct answer. So for this one, if I take 212,043, which is 212,043, minus 85,842, minus 43,575, minus 62,804. My answer is 19,812. Okay, so that is how I go to 212,043 minus 85,842, and then minus 43,575, and then minus 62,814, and then there's my answer is 19,812. Easy marks. Okay, you are welcome to do it other way, but at the end you still get the same answer. Okay, then 1.5 is the range of the monthly total number. So when they say the range, you must know how we calculate the range, or there must be something that comes into your mind. Okay, your mind can't just go blank. When they say the range, then you think about the formula, you think about the biggest value and the smallest value. Okay, so the range of the monthly total number of pilgrims that took part in the from 2019 to 2022 was 206,716. Okay, now boys and girls, you also need to know this. I know that most of you are used to a situation where they give you the biggest number and they give you the smallest number and they ask you to calculate the range. Okay, but remember, in some cases they can give you the range, they give you the smallest value, they ask you to calculate the biggest value, or they give you the range and they give you the biggest value and they ask you to calculate the smallest value. So you must go and look at those type of questions. Okay, like in this case, if we look at this, we are given the range. Now think about this. We've got range its biggest minus smallest. Okay, just taking a shortcut there, but it's the biggest value minus the smallest value. Okay, in this case you are used to a situation where they say calculate the range, and then you will substitute the biggest value and then you substitute the smallest value, or you take the biggest value, you subtract the smallest value. But in this case it's different. You are now given the range. Okay, right. Then they say use the concept of the range to determine the lowest total value of the pilgrims from 2019 to 22, value of B. So in other words, what they are doing, they are telling you that B is the smallest value. So if B, even though we don't know what the value of B is, but what we know is the value of B is the smallest value. Then if we look at the rest of the numbers, it means now from the rest of the numbers, we need to identify the biggest value. Okay, now the biggest value, obviously, the total cannot be part of those values. The total cannot be part of those values. Now, if I look at this, I look for the biggest value. I look for the biggest value. Okay, so I look for the biggest value. So this one is the range of the monthly total number of people that took part in the from 2019 to 2022. It's 206,716 total monthly number. So for this one, I've got the range. The range is okay. In this case, you can actually just switch the formula around or switch the equation around. You can still say the biggest value minus the smallest is equals to the range. Okay, then when I do the substitution, I'm going to have actually let me just leave it as it is. Let me just leave it as it is. I'm just going to leave it as the way it's given. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to substitute the range, which is 206,716. Then I say equals to, and then the biggest value. Okay, among all this, I've got 125, I've got 159, I've got 212. So I've got 212,043. And then it's minus. I don't know this, but that side it becomes positive, and then I take 212,043, and then I minus 206,716. Okay, and then I use my calculator. So it's 212,043 minus 206,716. So this will give me 5,327. 5,327. Okay, so in this case, it means the value of B is 5,327. And then if we check, it will indeed be the smallest number. It is the smallest number of the numbers that are already given there. So the value of B is 5,327. Now, boys and girls, however way you can find the answer, okay, however way or the easiest way that you can find the answer, it's not actually a must just to follow the formula as is. If you can figure out how to do this answer, the easiest way, you are welcome to do it. But in the end, the value of B must be 5,327. Okay, then 1.6, there the mean. Remember I said, boys and girls, you have to be sure about this, especially mean, median, and mode. Most of you are still confusing the three: mean, median, and mode. Now remember, mode is the number that appears the most. Okay, and then the median is the middle most value of the arranged data. Okay, well, the mean is the sum of the values divided by the number they are. You have to be sure about them. So in this case, we have to calculate the mean. Now for the mean, we have to add. Calculate the mean number of pilgrims that completed in the year 2021. Now for the mean, calculate the mean number of pilgrims that completed the community. So if we have to add in 2021, this we have to add, okay, all these values. The examiner was too clever for us there. He did not indicate the total, unlike in other columns, because he knew that he was going to ask this question. So unfortunately, more work for us. But if it was given, we're just going to take it and then divide by the value, the number they are. But unfortunately, in this case, we have to add. So if we have to add, we have to indicate all of them. So it's 60, then it's plus 14. And then the other thing is you have to make sure that you choose the correct column. So for this one is the year 2021. So it's 60 plus 14 plus 194 and then plus 1024 plus 4295 plus 14,824 plus 35,963 plus 43,575 plus 37,463 plus 31,170 plus 9,094 and then plus the last one is 1,193 plus 1,193. Remember now, in this case, we have to divide by the number they are. How many are they? So they're supposed to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we divided by 12. But now you need to be careful again. Remember, when you indicated the addition here, you also have to double check that after writing down the addition, you still have 12 values. Because in some cases, some of you will miss one value and you think they are still 12, only to find that you actually missed one value. Then that will be picked up by the markers at the marking center. So it's very important that after rewriting them down, you still need to count them. So in this case, if I check, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Then I'm sure I've got all of them. Even when I do it on my calculator, I have to be sure that I add all of them. So if I say 60 plus 14 plus 194 plus 1024 plus 4295 plus 14,824 plus 35,963 plus 43,575 plus 37,463 plus 31,170 plus I think that is 9,094 and then plus 1,193. Okay, so when I press my equal sign, I get 178,000. Now I can indicate 178,869. Then I divide it by 12. Okay, so if I take this value, I divide it by 12, then I get 14,905. 14,905, then comma 75. Okay, now remember, in some cases the examiner will tell you to round off. The examiner will tell you to round off to 1 decimal place, or the examiner will tell you to round off to 2 decimal places. But in some cases the examiner will not give you an instruction in terms of rounding off. because examiner will be testing you if you know your maths lit very well. What did we say about the number of items in maths lit? When you count, obviously not necessarily in maths lit only, but in general, when you count, you'll never get a decimal number. So in this case, it's about the number of pilgrims. So the number of pilgrims, even if it's the mean, in the end, it cannot be a decimal number. So in this case, you can say this is about 14,905, or someone will say 14,906. As long as at the end of the day, you don't leave that number in decimal form, because the scenario, it's about the number of items, it's about the number of pilgrims. So whatever you calculate there, it cannot be in decimal form. Very, very important. I'm sure in this case, the examiner will award a mark for writing the number as a whole number. Okay, but if you leave it in decimal form, they might still, maybe in this question, if the examiner had to give it 4 marks, maybe in your case, they will give it 3 marks if you leave your answer in decimal form. Okay, then for question 1.7, again, boys and girls, probability, please. Probability, remember, is in both paper 1 and paper 2. It can be asked in any question. All right, this is one of the easiest topics as well. Very, very important. You need to make sure that you score marks on this one. Determine the probability that more than 50,000 pilgrims completed the Camino de Santiago per month in the year 2022. So now in this case, we go to the year 2022. There's the year 2022, and then we check. Determine the probability that more than 50,000 pilgrims completed per month in the year 2022. More than 50,000. Now, how many values are more than 50,000 in this case? So the number of values that are more than 50,000, if I count, obviously this one not, and then this one not. So this is not, and then this is not, this is still less than, and then I've got this one is 58,000, I've got 67,000, this one is 35,000, so it's not, then I've got 66,000, and then I've got 51,000. So if I check here, I've got, let's see if I'm not missing anything. Okay, I think this one is 85,000. Okay, this is 85,000. So 85,842. So I'll get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's 5 over, how many are they? Over 12. Okay, so there's the probability. Now remember, probability can be written in 3 different forms. That is a common fraction, decimal, and a percentage. So you must always read the instruction. This one, they say write your answer as a percentage rounded to the nearest whole number. Now if this is a fraction, then we just multiply it by 100 to indicate the percentage key. On your calculator, you say 5 divided by 12 and then multiply by 100, and then I'm getting 41,66, and so on and so on. So if we have to round it up to the nearest whole number, this will be 42. So it's 42%. Remember the percentage, so it must be 42%, because they say the answer in the form of a percentage rounded to the nearest whole number. Rounding as well, boys and girls, very, very important. You cannot afford to lose marks on rounding as well. Very, very important, especially in a case where the examiner is specifying that round up to the nearest whole number. It means there's going to be a mark specifically for rounding. Okay, this one was taken from Northwest. It's box and whisker. I know that most of you are scared of the box and whisker, but boys and girls, it is not that scary. So you can still score some marks there if you find it very challenging. So there's our box and whisker. You've got 3 of them. Okay, they say state what percentage the box represents in the box and whisker diagram. Okay, now if you remember the picture of box and whisker, it's always like this. Okay, we say the first whisker represents 25%. That means from this point to that point. And then we know that the box, if it's divided into two parts, the first part is also 25%. This one is also 25%. And the other whisker is 25%. So in the end, you've got 100%. So from this one, from minimum to lower quartile is 25%. From lower quartile to median, it's another 25%. From median to upper quartile is 25%. And then from upper quartile to maximum is 25%. If the examiner had to ask you what is the percentage from minimum to median, then you'll say it's 25% and 25%. It doesn't matter how the box and whisker looks like, but from minimum to median it's 50%, and then from minimum to lower quartile is 25%. From minimum to upper quartile is 75%, and then from median to maximum it's 50%. From lower quartile to upper quartile it's 50%. But in this case, the examiner states state what percentage the box represents. The box is from lower quartile to upper quartile, so therefore it's 50%. So you just write 50%. Easy. Right. Then 2.2, write down the outlier as well as the class in which it occurred, the outlier. Now, if you look at this picture, the diagram that is given there, you've got different percentages that are indicated. You've got 60,5, you've got 72,5, you've got 78, you've got 64, you've got 91.5, you've got 97.5, you've got 82, you've got 71, you've got this is 50, I think it's 50,125, and then you've got 22, we've got 54, we've got 64, we've got 75, we've got 79, we've got 84. Okay, so in this case they say write down the outlier. Yes. Okay, an outlier is a concept on its own, it's a terminology on its own. Okay, somewhere you should have discussed an outlier. What do you mean by an outlier? Okay, an outlier is a value that is too small or too big compared to the other values. Okay, it's either this value is too small or too big compared to the other values. It's like in a classroom, you write an assignment. I know that most of you are doing well in an assignment because it's an open book, or you take it home, you go and write it at home, come back, you give it in, then in the market, you get high marks. You get 90%, you get 95%, you've got 100%, and so on and so on. But all of a sudden, there's this poor friend of us who maybe was not at school and so on, did not get enough time to do the homework and so on. Maybe our friend was under pressure, but did not manage to get good marks. Maybe we'll get 10. But when we check the result, we can see that most of the learners are in the 80s, the 70s, but this one got 8% or got 10%. So we'll say that learner is an outlier. Or maybe they give you this very, very difficult assignment, and most of you struggle with it. Most of you get in the 20s, you get in the 30s, you get in the 40s, but all of a sudden there's this one learner, brilliant learner in the class, this brilliant friend of us in our class who's getting 90 and 100. Most of you are around 30, 40, 50, but he got 90, 100. We'll say that learner is an outlier. Okay. Like, for instance, a colleague of mine once gave an example that in a classroom, for instance, your ages are more or less the same. If you are in grade 12, we'll say you're about 17, 18, 19, 20, okay, maybe 21 as well. But we know that if you compare your ages with your educator's ages, your educator might be in the late 20s, or might be in the early 30s, or might be in the mid 40s, and so on and so on. So if you compare your ages with your educator's age, we'll say the educator's age will be an outlier. So this one, it's what which one is an outlier. Then you must know, okay, what is an outlier? An outlier, it means it's either too big or too small compared to the others. So like in this case, if you can look at this, we've got 60, we've got 70, we've got 79, we've got 64, we've got 91, we've got 50. But now if you look at this one, it's 20. Shame, it's a lost number. Okay. So it's a lost number because it's actually too small compared to the others. So 22 will be an outlier. Okay. Then they say in which class it occurred, because remember, each box and whisker indicates this is for class A, this is for class B, this is for class C, and then you must also indicate this is for class B. Okay, but the most important concept in this case, or terminology, is an outlier. You need to know that. Okay, then 2.3, they say which values are used to draw the box and whisker diagram. Boys and girls, we said you would not be expected to draw box and whisker diagram, but I mean, how many box and whisker plot or box and whisker diagrams did you do in the classroom? And every time, whatever value is located here, it's a minimum. Whatever value is located here, it's a maximum. So we all know that if I take you back to this, we know that if you've got box and whisker, we know that always whatever is here, it's minimum. Whatever is here is quartile 1. Whatever is here is quartile 2. Whatever is here is quartile 3. And whatever is here is maximum. So we've got minimum, we've got quartile 1, we've got quartile 2, we've got quartile 3, and we've got we've got maximum. Okay, so this one is quartile 2. Sometimes they say it's a median, right? So very important. So from this one, you always know the picture. So we will only need these values in order to draw, even though we will not be expected to draw. But these are the values that will always be indicated on the box and whisker. Okay, so going back to our question, they say which values are used to draw the box and whisker. We know that it's minimum, and then we know that it's quartile 1, and then we know that it's quartile 2. Some of you will say it's a median, and then we've got quartile 3. Some of you will say it's upper quartile, and then of course we've got maximum. So these are the values that are needed whenever box and whisker is drawn. Okay, so these are the values that are needed. Not necessary, but yes, these are the values that you need. A minimum, you need a lower quartile, you need median, you need upper quartile, and you need maximum. Okay, then for number 2.4 is Alejandro states that class B IQR is 75% more than the IQR of class A and C combined. Okay, remember the values that are indicated there are already in the form of percentages. Okay, Alejandro states that the class B's IQR is 75% more than the IQR of class A and C combined. Now let's see. IQR of class A. For class A, the IQR will be, now remember IQR, okay? You need to know this. The examiner might not give it to you, so you need to know. It means Q3 minus Q1, quartile 3 minus quartile 1, not maximum minus minimum. Then if we go to our box and whisker, we look at our if we look at our box and whisker, we've got 60.5. Sorry, quartile 3 is 64. No, it's 84. 84. And then from there, I must minus quartile 1, which is 72.5. 72.5. So 84 minus 72.5, I get 11.5. So remember, all these are percentages. Okay, then I go to class B. Class B, IQR, we still use the very same formula, Q3 minus Q1. So class B, I see I've got 50,325. No, 50,325, it's actually quartile 1. So this must be, quartile 3 must be 82. And then I subtract 50,125. 50,125. Okay, then when I use my calculator, I get 82 minus 50,125. 82 minus 50,125. Then I'm getting 31,875. 31,875. Remember, all these are in the form of percentages. And then what else do I have to calculate? I have to calculate class C. So I'm just going to write it here, class C. Okay, I think you know the formula now. It's just quartile 3. So in this case, quartile 3 is 79. And then minus quartile 1, which is 64. Then 79 minus 64, 79 minus 64, I get 15. Remember, it's also, actually, all these values are in the form of percentages. Okay, verify showing all calculated statement is correct. State that class B's IQR is 75% more. So it means if I take the class B's IQR and then I subtract, so class B is 31,75. 31. Okay, let me add, let's say class A plus class B. They'll give me how much if I add them together? Class A will give me, it's 11.5, and then class C is 15. So this will give me 26.5. This is class A and class B combined. Then they say this one is more than that by 7,5. Let's see. So if I say 31,875 minus 26,5, it's a percent. This one is also a percent. So if I say 31.875 minus 26.5, then I get 5.375. 5.375%. It's more, they say it's more, it's 7.5% more, but that is not the case. It is 5.375% more. Okay, it's 5.375% more. So in this case, you have to show in the end that statement is correct, the statement is incorrect, the statement is not correct. You also have to indicate the statement is not correct. You have to indicate that. It's very important, boys and girls. It's not correct. Okay, so that was question 2.4. Right, then for number 2.5, they say use the measures of central tendency or spread to determine which class performed the best. State the measure of central tendency or spread and give a reason for your answer. Okay, so for 2.5, we need to compare these two classes. Which class do you think performed better? And then if we look at class A, okay, the highest learner, that means the maximum, got 91,5. Okay, and then the lowest learner got 60,5. While in B, the lowest learner got 22 and the highest learner got 97,5. So I don't think it will be fair that we have to compare the performance by looking at the lowest and the highest. Okay, then if I look at this, the highest learner is 84 and the lowest learner is 54. But in this case, if you look at the median, okay, if you look at the median, in this class for median is 78% in class A, and then B is 71%, and C it's 75%. Okay, now what does a median mean? A median means 50%. So this one we've got the 50%. So the mark that is in the middle, is 78 in class A. That means 50% of the learners in that class either got that mark or more. So they got 78 or more. But in class B, 50% got 71% or more. And then in class C, 50%, half of the class got 75% or more. So you can see that half of the learners in class A actually got 78% or more. So in this case, we can say that class A is actually the one that performed better. So we can say in this case, they say which class performed better? We say class A, it must be class A. So it's class A because 50% performed or got 78% or more. They got 78% or more compared to the other classes. Okay, so that is what we can use to justify that class A actually performed better than class B. Okay, then question 3. It's Munowe lives near Fantasia Fun Park and Restaurant, open for all ages, entertainment and refreshment. The bar graph below shows the number of visitors per hour and entering the Fantasia Fun Park on 4 days of the week. So only 4 days of the week, or this one indicated 4 days of the week. Note, on Mondays the park is not open. The park is open from 9 o'clock to 19 hours. Identify the type of bar graph used to display this data. You need to be careful, boys and girls. I know that some of you might say it's a bar graph, it's a histogram, but this is not histogram. It would be histogram if it was only one set. Okay, if maybe it was only the first one, this one only, will say it's histogram. But you can see that in this case, it's compound bar graph. This one becomes compound bar graph or multiple bar graph. So it's a bar graph, but it's a specific type of a bar graph. So the examiner will look at it. The examiner would not say identify the type of bar graph. If you just write bar graph, no mark, because in this case they actually want you to specify the type of bar graph that is given. So this one is a multiple bar graph, or some of you will say, so it's a multiple bar graph, or some of you will say it's a compound bar graph. Okay, name the items missing on the graph regarding A and B as directed below. Okay, so what is missing in terms of days? What is missing? The number of days that are indicated here is 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, obviously Monday would not be indicated because Monday is not open. So which days are missing here? We've got Thursday, we've got Friday, we've got Saturday. So we are missing Tuesday and Wednesday. Tuesday and Wednesday are the ones which are missing. Tuesday and Wednesday. Okay. Okay, they say name the items missing on the graph regarding A and B as directed below. So Tuesday and Wednesday are not indicated. And then they say visitors. So in terms of visitors, we can see that the numbers are actually not indicated on the vertical line. If you look on the vertical line, okay, the numbers are not indicated. So numbers not indicated on the number line, on the vertical line or vertical axis. Okay, so yes, they've indicated number of visits, but we cannot guess if each line represents which number. So that the numbers are not indicated there. Right, and then number 3.3, they say describe a trend. Yes, that way that I spoke about. Trend, it means you need to explain if this is increasing or decreasing or is the same. Describe a trend that relates to the number of visitors per hour entering the park. Okay, so if we look at each day, you can see that for Thursday, the number is increasing up until 12 o'clock on Thursday. Okay, and then just after 12, then the number is decreasing. Okay, on Friday, the number is increasing from 9 o'clock up until 12 o'clock, and then after that, the number is decreasing. If you go to Saturday, you can see the number is increasing. It's increasing up until 1 o'clock. Okay, and then 1 p.m. So then from there is decreasing. On Sunday, the number is increasing from 9 o'clock up until also around 1 o'clock, and then is decreasing. Okay, so in this case, it means when you describe the trend in terms of the hours, you can say that, okay, during the week, which is Thursday and Friday, the number is increasing from 9 until 12, and then after 12 is decreasing. The same thing on Friday, you can see that up until 12 it's increasing, then after that it's decreasing. But on weekends, which is Saturday and Sunday, is different. It's actually increasing from 9 o'clock until 1 o'clock. Okay, 9 o'clock until 1 o'clock. So if you describe, you will say the number. Okay, or you can say on, let me just say during the week, during weekdays, the number of visitors increases from 9 o'clock to 12 midday, then it decreases. Okay, and then you can go back and say during the weekend, the number of visitors increases. Then now you change the times. It's from, I'm going to write it there, from 9 until 13 hours. Then it decreases. Okay, remember with regard to trend, as long as you can mention increase or decrease, or if it stays the same, you also indicate that the number stays the same from this time until this time. Okay, then the next question is, Mr. Gareth lives in South Africa. For the past 2 years, he traveled to different countries in Africa. The table alongside shows the inflation rate of 10 countries in Africa for 2022 and 2023. each country has a different inflation rate and it changes from year to year. Okay, boys and girls, you did the inflation rate. I'm sure you know what an inflation rate is. Name the country or countries if there's more than one, which inflation rate decreased from the previous year. Okay, now if you look at this, normally we'll start with the previous year and we end up with the recent year. So in this case, the examiner was trying to trick us, started with 2023 and 2022. So when I was doing checking this question as well, I almost made a mistake. That okay, we start with this one, but it must actually be other way around. It must be from 2022 to 2023, 8,3 to 8,9. Is it? They want to know which inflation rate decreased. So did it increase? So this one I'm just going to indicate it increased. I for increased. And then 9.1 to 9.0 is decreased. 8.2 to 9.3 it's increased. 12.4 to 9.3 it's decreased. 2.9 to 4.1 is an increase. Remember, it's from 2022 to 2023. 10.2 to 10.4 it's an increase. 12.8 to 10.6 it's a decrease. 10.1 to 10.2 it's an increase. And then this one 12.9 to P, we don't know what the value of P is, so that one we can't tell. 21.3 to 25.5 it's an increase. So in this case we can only tell about Kenya, we can say Botswana, and we also say Senegal. We don't know about Republic of Congo because the value for 2023 is not given. So you need to write them down. So it's Kenya, and then it's Botswana, and then after Botswana it's Senegal. Right? You see, boys and girls, there are actually easy marks there. There's always easy marks, and those easy marks are the ones that you're supposed to get before you even go to the challenging questions. Right? And then 4.2 is which of the following types of graphs will be the best to present the data above. Okay, line graph. Remember this is about comparison. We are comparing for 2023 and 2022. Once you start comparing, you might have seen in the previous graph where we're comparing the number of visitors in the first hour, in the second hour, in the third hour. That is why they used a compound bar graph. Okay, so in this case we can't use pie chart. Okay, pie chart, maybe if it was only the percentages for 2023 or the percentage for 2022, we say we can use the pie chart or the line graph. But in this case, because we are comparing, at the end of the day, we need to compare 2023 and 2022. Therefore, we're going to use compound bar graph. Okay, compound bar graph. Okay, then for number 4.3, it's name the country with the second lowest inflation rate for 2022. Name the country with the second lowest. Most of you boys and girls are always getting confused. Second lowest, in this case, it means you need to arrange this. You need to know which, you need to arrange either from the smallest to the biggest. But they say the second lowest. So if I look at this, let me see. Okay, if I start with the smallest one, they say for 2022, so the smallest one is 2.9. So 2.9 is done. And then the next one is, I hope I'll get it after 2.9. It's 8.2. Okay, so 8.2 is done. Then I've got 8.3. It's very important that you tick after 8.3. Let me see. I get 9.1. So 9.1 is covered. After 9.1, I go to 10.1. So 10.1 is covered. Then I've got 10.2. 10.2 is covered. Then after 10.2, I go to 12.4. 12.4 is covered. I go to 12.8. 12.8 is covered. Then I've got 12.9. 12.9 is covered. And then I've got 21.3. Initially, I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I've written down all of them. Then they say the second lowest. Lowest means is the smallest. So the lowest, this will be the first lowest, and this will be the second lowest. So 8.2 is the second lowest. Okay, so 8.2 is the second lowest. So it's very important that you need to know these terminologies as well. Okay, then for number 4.4, it's calculate the median percentage inflation rate for 2022. Calculate the median percentage inflation rate for 2022. The median for 2022, I'm going to make it easier. I'm just going back to the previous solution because I've already arranged them. Okay, I've already arranged them. I've already arranged from the smallest to the highest. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10, it means it's an even number. Obviously, I'm going to have two values in the middle. Remember, if originally there were 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you need to recount them and see if they are still 10. So now I'm going to check which values are in the middle. Okay, if you cancel from, I'll cancel 1, 1, 2, 2, then it's 3, 3, and then it's 4, 4. However way you do it, then you can see that I've got two numbers in the middle. I've got 10.1 and 10.2. Now, when they say what is the median, then you can say the median is 10.1 and 10.2. Okay, you need to add them together and divide by 2. If there's only one, then you write it down. So in this case, if I go back to this question where they say the median arrangement, it's very important. I've already arranged. So I've got 10.1 and then plus 10.2. Then I divide it by 2. Take your calculator, 10.1 plus 10.2 equal sign, and then divide it by 2. I'm getting 10.15. Okay, again, median, don't confuse median, mode, and mean. Okay, probability again is determine the probability of randomly selecting an African country from the table with an inflation rate of less than 10%. Okay, in 2022, less than 10%. So less than 10%, let's see, this is less. So it's got 1, got 2, we've got 3, we've got 4, and then we've got, yeah. So these are the only percentages that are less than 10. 8.3, 9.1, 8.2, 2.9. We need to focus, boys and girls. We need to focus. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this will be 4 over, how many were they? There's still 1, 2, there's still 10. We said 10 anyway. So it's 4 over 10. But very, very, very important. Write your answer as a decimal. So the examiner wants to see if you know a decimal. So if you use a calculator and you say 4 divided by 10, this will give you 0.4. Okay, then 4.6, it's the mean percentage inflation rate for 2023. It's 11.14%. Calculate the missing value P by showing all calculations. Now, boys and girls, this is one of those questions of which most of us are not used to or we don't expect. We are used to a situation where they say calculate the mean. Then you just add everything and divide by the number they are. But unfortunately, in this case, they give you the mean. And then they expect you to calculate one of the values. Okay, so it simply means you need to go and find those type of questions and practice them. Okay, because we don't pray and hope that the examiner it's not going to set this. We don't pray and hope that the examiner would not set this, but we need to go and practice so that we can be ready for anything. So in this case, they say the mean percentage. We know that usually we say the mean is equals to the sum of values divided by the number they are, number of values. Okay, but in this case, the mean is given. Okay, the mean is given, which is 11,14, and then we have to find the sum. So this one is for 2023. We have to add up all this. So what we do is say we know the mean. The mean is 11,14. I'll advise you to ignore the percentage sign for now. 11,14. We are working with percentage. So we say the sum. We are going to add up all these values. We're going to add up 8,9. So I'll say 8,9 plus 9.0 plus 9.3 plus 9.3 plus 4.1 plus 10.4 plus 10.6 plus 10.2 plus 25.5. So if I add up, for this one, actually we're supposed to show the addition, but I can just indicate the sum. When I add all this, I get 97,3. But remember, I also have P. So if I add up all this, then I say 97,3 O plus P, then I say divided by 10. Because there are 10 values there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, including P. Then from here, I have to cross multiply. For cross multiplication, this one is the same as over 1. Like when you did the cross multiplication in terms of conversion, then I will say whatever I multiply with, in this case, I get 97.3 plus P equals to, if I take 11,14, I multiply by 10, I get 111,4. Then from there, to find the value of P is equals to 111.4 minus 97.3, and this will give me the answer. So it's 111.4 minus 97.3, then this is 14.1. That is the value of P. You see, boys and girls, this is one of those questions. Remember that one that we did about the range? Most of you are used to where you are given the biggest value and the lowest value, they say calculate the range. The same thing with this one. Most of you are used to a situation where you are given all the values and then they say calculate the mean, but they can still give you the mean and they ask you to calculate one of the values, or maybe in some cases it's two values. So it's very, very important. You must go and look at such a type of questions. Okay. And then the last question, because time is not on my side, that is 4.7. Is the mean percentage inflation rate for 2023 a good indication of the inflation rate for the 10 African countries? Give a reason for your answer. 2023. Remember the value of P, we said it's 14.1. So it's 14.1. Okay. Now, we've got three averages. We've got mode, we've got median, we've got mean. Okay. Now, if you want to get a good indication between the three, we say the mean will be the best one if there's no outlier. The mean, if the given values do not have an outlier, the mean will be the best. Okay. And then we've got okay, I spoke about the mean. Then we've got the median. The median is when we have an outlier. If we've got an outlier, if the given values have got an outlier, then the median will be the best. And then with regard to mode, we say the mode, it's only used if the type of data it's not numerical. If the type of data that is given is about colors, okay, it's about the type of items and so on, then we can use the mode. Okay, now they say, is the mean percentage a good indication of the inflation rate for the 10 African countries? No, it won't give us a good indication because we've got an outlier. If we have to use the mean will not give us a good indication. It's like if I have to analyze the learners' marks in the classroom and there are those learners who did not perform well. It means even if it's one or two learners, but they got low marks, those learners are going to affect the whole class's average. So therefore, that will not give me the true reflection. So in that case, I have to use the median. So in this case, we say the mean, it's not a good indication. Okay, because it is not, because Egypt is an outlier. Egypt is an outlier. Okay, so you just have to go and check with your teachers again with regard to these three averages: the mean, the median, and the mode. Which one will give us the best description in terms of the data? Very, very important. Now, boys and girls, unfortunately, time is not on my side, but I believe that you will still continue studying and studying and studying. This was just part of the revision. I'm sure you're going to continue with revision as well. And then thank you very much for watching this lesson, and then I hope to see you next time. Goodbye.